Do you remember the good news from the end of last year? The Mates and Dates program in schools, which had been indoctrinating harmful and confusing gender fluidity and sexuality ideology into our schools for far too long, it was scrapped. But now there's a new show in town called In Your Skin. It's a program being developed by two sexologists from Australia, and we've investigated some of its content and ideology. And once again, you should be concerned. So, the Mates and Dates program in schools was an ACC program for children 13 years and up. It was always sold as a program around safe, healthy, and respectful relationships, the harms of drugs and alcohol, and keeping safe together. But what we found was that it was linked closely to the Ministry of Education's sexuality education curriculum, with a push on issues such as identity, gender, and sexuality, use of the flawed and misleading genderbreed person, indoctrinating your children with genderqueer, androgynous, bisexual, breaking through the binary. Now, fortunately, many schools didn't want a bar of it, and rightly so. They knew it was a flawed program. But now there's a new program which has arrived on our shores from Australia. It's called In Your Skin, and it's been developed by two Australian sexologists. And they say that young people have voiced their preference for practical information about navigating respectful, intimate relationships, particularly with respect to consent and communication skills. Okay, fair enough. Topics to be covered include develop healthy relationship skills, identify personal values and relationship needs, okay, determine boundaries around preferred sexual activity, communicate and negotiate sexual activity, understand and identify coercion, understand, express, and recognize consent. So, preferred sexual activity, negotiate sexual activity. Remember, this is in secondary school, so 13 up to 18 years old. Now, we actually listened into a parent presentation, which a number of parents had alerted us to. In fact, a number of teachers have also expressed concern about the program, which is being put into a select group of secondary schools in New Zealand at this stage. And what you hear is good: consent, problem with porn, impact of alcohol, respect, healthy relationships, just like Mates and Dates. It's when you dig deeper into the ideology and the worldview of the program that the red flags appear. Now, we actually contacted the presenters and asked if we could see the material going into schools. Their response: we will not be sending you a copy of our program, I'm sorry, though we will soon be releasing a curriculum for secondary school students, which you will be able to purchase in due course. We are hoping this is ready for release in term 2. And yet they're doing the program this term, term 1. So why can't parents see it? That's an immediate red flag. But some of their student workshops include schools and alternative education taking a gender transformative approach. These workshops support young people to develop healthy relationship skills. And there's the expansive practice. This workshop explores the general experience of queer students, the harmful impact of the gender binary, expansive language, and creating safe classrooms. And it becomes quickly evident that this program, while containing some good material which parents will appreciate, has a strong emphasis on radical sexuality and gender ideologies, which is exactly what the Ministry of Education and activists want your children to be indoctrinated in. And it is very evident when you look at their Instagram account. In fact, it's a real eye opener. It quickly shows you their ideology behind the well intentioned, nice sounding sales pitch of their curriculum. By the way, some of this material I'm about to show you, you may find offensive. Want to experiment and explore your sexuality? What are you waiting for? Virginity is a harmful construct. The construct of virginity serves to police female sexuality, apparently. And they go on to say virginity perpetuates a heteronormative context. It comes with a sexual double standard and assumes a gender binary. What the? And the concept of virginity is misleading and unhelpful. Instead of thinking about virginity, get busy making sure any partner's sexual activity is mutually consenting and mutually pleasurable. Now, it's interesting. During the parent meeting that we listened in on, they were asked, do they encourage abstinence? Oh, yes, of course. Absolutely. But it's hard to find any evidence of this in the worldview. Remember, this is a sex positive, gender transformative, preferred sexual activity program. And instead of thinking about virginity, get busy. This charming one, comparing penises and testicles, they're all normal. We've got Pansexual Pride Day, International Day of People with Disability, although for some reason they're only in the LGBTQIP2S AA plus group. For some reason, I'm not quite sure why. Transgender Awareness Week, International Pronouns Day, International Safe Abortion Day. And then into the gender ideology, what is binding? And they say binding. Now, remember, this is teenage girls' breasts that are being bound, will positively impact a person's mental health, helping them to appear in a way that better aligns with their identity. To compress the chest, binders are designed to be worn snug while still allowing for full breathing capacity. There's a lot of misinformation out there about binding and its potential to be an unsafe practice. Let's consider how to do it safely. Well, this is dangerous and harmful advice. Then it goes on to International Non-Binary People's Day. Pronouns. Actually, there's some there that I didn't even know along the bottom. Fey, fear, and hayum, whom. What is heteronormativity? Nasty. It assumes the gender binary. We've got the International Day against homophobia, biphobia, interphobia, and transphobia. I'm not quite sure how many phobias there are. It's Masturbation May. Yep, a whole month. Pride flags and International Sex Workers' Rights Day. Yep, they're pro-prostitution. Is that respectful relationships? We have this charming one on masturbation. And of course, the genderbread person. And finally, supporting a petition for government funding for transgender surgeries. Oh, and this one about what is ethical porn. Yeah, right. Ethical porn. It's a myth. Consumers of ethical porn aren't immune to effects of addiction and tolerance. Pornography is intrinsically unethical. This is nothing more than a false veneer that tries to legitimize what is inherently exploitative material. Look, we can't see the actual curriculum because they won't actually show us it, but it's very evident what their worldview is, and the program will reflect this. It's not only sex positive, gender transformative, preferred sexual activity program, and instead of thinking about virginity, get busy, but it's also pro-abortion, pro-gender confusion, pro-transing and binding and sex change operations, and even pro-prostitution. Now, as a parent, you may be fine with this, and that's okay. That's up to you as a parent, parental choice. But we're simply warning parents about what is in the program because we think many parents will be concerned. But what is also concerning is the websites that it links through to back up its own material. For example, we've got scarlatine.com, which leaves nothing to imagination, very explicit on issues you probably don't want your child to hear about. Oh, and it's very pro-abortion as well. They also recommend a website called amaze.org with lots of videos about gender identity and sexual orientation. This site from the UK they recommend called Bish UK, and it also has some highly offensive material on that site also. An Australian site, Q Life, with some interesting Q guides for young people. They also recommend people to go to the Planned Parenthood website. Yep, they refer students to that. So it shows it's not just about consenting relationships, it's about abortion, as we've already covered. They also recommend Beyond Blue, which is similar to Inside Out here in New Zealand. Headspace is an Australian government site, and it links through to the controversial a teen site, and a sexuality and disability website with some interesting images on their homepage. Phew. Parents, do you know what your school is doing in this area? Is in your skin in your school? We think you should check. It's a good reminder that you need to go to our website and read our parent guide because it's time to push back. And this parent guide shows you how to do it effectively and strategically. Look, they will hate this presentation that you're watching because they really don't want you as a parent to be fully aware of what's happening. That was pretty evident as we watched the parent presentation online recently. But as a parent or caregiver, it's our job to be a voice our children trust the most on the topic of relationships and sex. So let's be courageous. Let's talk about sex and relationships and marriage and abstinence and virginity and respect and consent with our children. Be the loudest voice on this topic. Let's not leave the door open for our children to be taught about sexuality and gender theory by the voices of people whose agendas and values don't align with ours. We'll keep discussing this issue and giving you the resources to speak up and push back.